All right, cool. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Spiritual Dope. We are on today with Sarah R. Adams. Sarah has experienced many things, from seeing abductions to seeing angels who aided her. Her waking consciousness increased as she got older. She experienced the supernatural in past lives in Egypt and Atlantis. Telepathy, weather abnormalities, feeling others' emotions, remote viewing, quantum leaping, and time travel are among the other alternate realities Sarah has endured. I've healed so much and believe that every day is healing journey to great heights. Real quick in there, I mean, just in the intro, Sarah, endured so much, right? I mean, endured all these different phases and spaces and places. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of what you're saying there, that you've endured?
So it's been a long journey, and, thank you for bringing that up, because this morning I was pondering on that after my meditation. It wasn't so easy to bring all the knowledge and all the things that I experienced into the public eye, because there's still a lot of closed off people out there. So it was definitely a learning process for me of how to handle that and how to cope with it. So that was definitely hard at one point. I almost stopped doing this work, and I'm very blessed that I had some major supporters in this field that reached out to me to encourage me to continue the work that I do. So yeah, that was definitely hard. And then, of course, I've come to a planet, I've incarnated on a planet where life is hard for a lot of people, and I'm able to tap into their feelings, their emotions, their hardship, the suppression that's going on this planet. So that also was a very tough journey for me to just, be able to process that, because it was really intense to experience all of those things. But on the bright side, I'm able to really help out humanity on a lot of levels, and I've helped out thousands of people all around the world. And of course, I'm doing a lot of work to help out the planet. So in the end, there's the light at the end of the tunnel. That's for sure.
Not for sure. And you're talking about, the beginning of your journey, or at least, prior to where you are now. And one, as I hit endured first, one of the things that I noticed on your bio too is that, you've made the appearances on Gaia, TV, Beyond Belief. You've been with Coast to Coast, Vice TV, and some of these other spaces. So, continuing to move forward for yourself, you were able to, and I feel like, at least this country and maybe the world is opening up to this space and place, right? Or somebody like yourself that's got these talents and gifts to share, right?
Mm-hmm. And it is, so I decided to work for Gaia. I had an experience in England that was very tough at the time. I lost somebody that I deeply loved. We were doing a lot of work in this field. I kind of just, stayed in England in a small seaside town with extended family members. And I decided to stay there and kind of step out of the public eye. And then I got this call from Gaia, and when the producers spent like 4 hours telling me, we're really professional here. We're going to be very good to you. We love your work. We have a lot of faith in you. We want to support you. Can you fly over to the United States and come and do some work with us? And of course, Netflix reached out to me at the same time for 2 other shows. And I winded up deciding not to work for Netflix and Gaia, because that was initially what my read was, to choose Gaia, because I believe they're doing good work for the world, because they are getting the experiences of blessed, intuitive healers out there and of awakened people out there to a larger platform. And a lot of people are open to Gaia. And it is, for me, it's amazing, because it was hard before, you do your YouTube accounts, you do your interviews, your live feeds, but then Gaia really is at a level where that's becoming more mainstream, and they've done a lot of work to get us out there. And I'm so thankful for that and so blessed for that, and for them giving me a platform so I could get the information that I have out there, because for me, that information is vital. And I channel a lot of information on self-healing, on healing others, on healing the planet. And this is information humanity needs right now. So I am deeply grateful for that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, right? Gaia is a great platform. I think it's interesting that, you chose that over Netflix, but, my instinct would also, say that, that's the platform that was right for you, right? I mean, it's a kind of like a for us, by us kind of situation, right? With Gaia.
I'm tremendously thankful to Vice, because we did film this whole show. Of course, at the time I wasn't doing very well. I was trying to cope with a person who was close to me, like I said, that passed away. It was in mainstream news. It was very hard for me to deal with, because I feel the energies of everyone. And Vice came over. I did a charity event in England for children who have cancer. They came and helped me out with it.
Nice.
They stayed with me a little bit and were so supportive. And then they decided to air the show eventually, and they were so sweet. They got on radio shows and were so supportive of me. They eventually decided to air the show like a day before. I was like, I don't think I could do this right now. It's like, I just don't think that I can be out there more. I feel like I have to be out of the public eye. They were so nice. They completely just got rid of the show, never aired it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have a lot of respect for Vice too.
And that's cool that they respected your wishes in that way. So
Yeah.
That's great. So I love to start these off with, this is not the, usually I do a quick intro and just jump right into this question. So this is, we're here, right? You and I are connecting here for this moment, this time, space, and place, to let Source speak through us to somebody who's going to listen to the podcast or maybe watch the video at some point, and they're tuning in to get a message that only you can deliver right now. So what is that message at this point in time?
So, for me, looking around and even feeling what I feel from the planet and from the masses out there, and this is why I do the work that I do, because of course I hear about homelessness and see homelessness and hear about abuse going on and see it, but I feel it. Because I'm in God consciousness, I can feel what's happening across the world, the pain and suffering. So this is why I'm so passionate about helping out humanity. This all needs to shift and change. And we need to understand that whether we know it or not, we're feeling that person suffering across the world. We're feeling the energy of that person suffering. We're feeling their emotions. We're feeling everything, even though many are not aware of this. And so for me, awareness is really important right now. People need to become aware that they are more than this physical body, that they are energy, and energy is what we're basically everything is made of. Even solid objects like the chair I'm sitting on, it's just condensed energy that creates solid objects. So when energy is condensed, it creates solid object. So for me, people need to become reconnected. And once they become reconnected to the energy field within them, which is their soul, their spirit, there's many names for it, then they can channel that energy. And they can channel that energy to heal their organs, heal their physical bodies, and heal those around them, and also heal the planet, because the planet functions on energy. Our bodies function on energy. We have a problem right now. This planet is depleted in energy. People are depleted in energy, and there's a lot of info in the Awaken community about DNA and how you should light up your DNA, how you should, charge your chakra system, your aura. But what people really need to understand is that they need to actually go out and do these things. They need to go do them and bring in the cosmic light. And we can touch the moon, the stars, the sun. We can even ask other beings to come charge us with ancient light codes. When that happens, we're going to start to become more full of energy. Our whole system will light up. Our DNA will light up, because a body that is depleted functions right here in energy. it functions right here in consciousness. We need to ascend to higher consciousness to fix the problems, to be solution bringers on this planet. And so we need to step from down here to up here energetically wise. When we do that, we're going to be God consciousness, and we're going to have the biggest library that's infinite, that's eternal, channel into us the solutions for everything, for the suffering, for the homelessness, for everything. So I think that that's really important right now. It's important we're more than words, that we actually bring in that energy, that we start to understand how energy works, and that we need to start to understand there is a lot of beings out there that want to help us, but we need to do the work to bring in that energy, because again, we're right here, the beings are here, so we can't access them. But once we bring our energy up, we're going to get to the same level as these beings, and they will interact with us. And then also, they're our kin. They're more than willing to bring help and solutions to us. So for me, the biggest thing is that humanity understands that they have a soul. It's made of energy. They can charge their bodies with more energy, and they can use this energy to go higher in frequency so that they can become multidimensional again, so that they can reach new heights of spirituality. Then they can channel that energy through them to heal the planet, to heal the oceans, and to clear the pollution and the negative energies off this planet.
So no small message.
Never a small message.
No small message, right? And just help me out here just with some of the language. So if I say God consciousness and in kind of the way that we're talking and what you're saying, could I liken it to the Akashic record?
Yeah, yes, Akashic record, vast library of eternal knowledge. Yes.
Okay.
That's definitely part of it. Yes.
Yeah, and I know you talk about different beings or ETs, etc. Are they, would you say that they're among us, and it's just our inability to recognize them for like the dimensional are currently limited? Well, to the most of us, right, our limited capability to see multidimensionally or at a higher level, and or simply like a belief block, right? Just like, if you believe the stories of like back in the day when, the story goes, hey, when Christopher Columbus came over with the boats, Indians didn't see the boats because they didn't know what a boat was, right? So how are you going to see something if you don't know what it is?
Well, it goes back to the whole thing of energy that I just explained. Yes, there's many different beings. I interact with leprechauns, fairies, elves, many different mythical creatures that I speak to, and I see them like I see you. Now, the thing is when your energy feels down here, you're functioning from lower consciousness. When your energy feels up here, you're functioning from higher consciousness. And you're also tapping into these other beings when you're functioning from up here. It's all about energy. A depleted body, simply you're kind of robotic, kind of shut off. You can't access other realms. You can't access other dimensions. So you're living down here. So the thing is that to be able to communicate with these beings, to interact with them, you have to bring your energy up. You have to bring your frequency up. And of course, when I go to say God, God consciousness, for me, God is an energy that flows through everything. It flows through planets, through realms, through everything. And this energy interacts with us. And of course, we have a certain amount of it in us, and otherwise we would be dead, because the organs and everything functions on energy. But what we need to do is we need to understand how to bring energy into us so we can speak to this moon, stars, the sun, they're ancient spirits of light. We can say, charge us with more energy, and that will happen as our frequency goes up. Then we're going to start interacting with the other beings. And even a non-believer can do this. For somebody who's never had a spiritual experience in their life, or interacted with an ET or any other supernatural creature, if you just bring your energy up, you'll have those experiences.
Okay. So if let me also, I'm sure you're familiar with David Hawkins and the consciousness map, yes or no?
A little bit.
Okay. And I bring that up because he's got a basic graph, right, that says, hey, low consciousness down here, and, it gives you like certain like levels, right? It's almost like a ladder up to like, God consciousness, right? Because, where if everybody's got like this lower consciousness now, then we're stuck in fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then if you're stuck in fear, then like you can't see shit, right? You're stuck. You can't see anything because all you see is worry and fear.
Yes.
Right. And it's going to take you to kind of, there's a tipping point is like courage, right? Where, that's on the ladder where it just says, hey, all right, well, I stepped into or accepted like, my divinity, like my source energy. But it's going to take me a little bit longer to figure out what to do with it next, right? Like now you've got the source energy, you're connected, you're tapped in, but you're like still like this big blob because you don't know what the hell to do with it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then, so he walked, so you kind of walk up the ladder until you get to this higher consciousness spot that you're talking about. And then, that part, you're at that part. But how do you walk somebody into, get to become reconnected? How do you walk somebody, yourself, like, to get charged? Like, yeah, I'd love to get charged with some ancient light codes. I'm down. Like, I mean, so what's that process?
I can arrange that for you in a session.
Yeah.
We'll
That'd be fun.
Okay, so you're right. You tap into, or you bring in this energy and you're kind of like everywhere. So then you have to master that energy because, God, which we're God, mastered the elements. Christ mastered the elements. Christ said to the ocean to calm, and it did. So, instead of letting that energy just everywhere, you channel that energy. So you say, okay, I want you to do this, this, and this, and you instruct that energy. And that's where you actually achieve what I call the entirety of access and God consciousness. Because if you're just in that chaotic energy, it's going to eventually, cause a lot of problems. So then you have that energy, you instruct it, okay, channel to the planet here, channel to my life here to create me more success and blessings, channel to this person here that needs it. So then you must know how to master it, which is quite important. Probably the most important above all is knowing how to master yourself. So we have so many co-pilots out there. Nobody's living as a master pilot of themselves, their energy fields. And this is causing a huge problem. They're not, we take showers every morning, but where our energy fields are full of gunk and nobody's actually caring to clear that out.
Right. Yeah.
And they walk, the cities and stuff, and it's passed back and forth. And eventually we go into this like dense web of energy, and they don't know why they're depressed, why they're feeling bad, why they're sad, why nothing is manifesting good in their life. It's because they're all in that web. So it's really important to understand you have an energy field and to clear it, bring in energy, and then master that energy.
How do I get myself out of the web?
So I work in symbolism. Of course, I've done some work on Gaia for this. And the body, Christ said that the body is a temple. The body is the original church, by the way. We weren't meant to go to church to access God. We were meant to, this is all code symbolism. We're meant to access God within here. We're looking for God in books, religions, all these places, failing to realize that the most powerful force actually lives within us. So to access that force, you must first acknowledge it. You must acknowledge that there's this energy within you. And then you must also start to communicate with it. So it's flowing through our organs, it's flowing through our cells. So to bring more energy in, what I like to do is I like to speak to each organ. So what I do is I visualize my DNA, I visualize it and cosmic energy pouring into my DNA to light my DNA up. Then I visualize a golden tunnel. I visualize myself flying up to through this golden tunnel until I got goosebumps all over my body. And then I go to past 5D, I go to 22D. And once I get to 22D, I'm in God consciousness. I have my mind cleared. I focus on my liver. And you don't even need to know where your liver is or the organ you're working on. And I say, is there any dense energies? Is there any toxins? Is there any ancestral energies? Is there any dense toxic energies from things that happened to me, traumatic energies? And then I clear my mind and wait, and the organ responds through a thought almost telepathically. And it'll show me either I'll get an image of like this black smoke energy. That means it means that there's dense energies that need to be cleared, or it'll say anger, or it'll say hurt or pain. Then I tell my system, just like you would press delete on your computer, I tell my system, delete this out of my system. And I can feel the energy completely being removed from my system. Then I ask the organ again, I say, what color do you need? And then it'll tell me gold or blue. Blue is great for inflammation. Gold is great to energize the organ. So I go through all my organs and do this through my cells, my bones, my brain, and do this because, again, going back symbolism, if you go to Europe, to the ancient churches there, to the cathedrals there, they have an organ in it. And of course, when you play the organ, the symphony is heard throughout the entire church. So our organs create the symphony that flows through our entire body, our aura, our chakra system. So if one of our organs are off, it's just like one of the keys of that organ in that church being off, which will create a symphony that's off, that's out of tune, that's out of symphony. And basically the same as with the frequencies in our bodies. When organs are blocked by toxins, by trauma, by all these negative things, and their energies are off, then the frequency, the tune of our frequency, the symphony of the divine within our frequency field is off. And then we start to create all sorts of issues everywhere in our life, in our physical life, which is a reflection of our symphony that's off within ourselves, our frequency that's off within ourselves.
I can definitely see that, right? You're a mess on the inside, you're going to see a mess on the outside, right? Exactly. I mean, right? How does one learn, to master the energy, right? Instructing the energy, I really enjoyed that versus kind of like sounds like a little bit more fun than your traditional prayer type of thing. Be like, please, it would be really cool if this happened. You send an instruction out, and again, you're using some program language like, create an instruction. This line always works for this thing, right? But how do you tell somebody to again, going from, all right, here's all this energy, it's a mess, but like, how do you go from that to just being able to instruct it? Because mastery is something that takes a long time. It's not something that takes a month, right? So what are some of the steps there?
I think the reason that, mastery for me can be attained by everyone in quite a short space of time once they understand how their system works, because we're in bodies, right? And we're seeing them as prisons. We're seeing them as negative. We're seeing that we're caught on this planet rather than understanding that they're divine tech. And this was a gift given to ourselves when we were in the realms of spirit, so we could have a 3D physical experience. And we are not treating this physical body, this tech, right. We're not understanding how it works. So, because of this, I feel a lot of and while I'm very thankful and have a lot of honor for those who have taught about mastering oneself, I believe once you connect to your system, it goes quite quickly. So you speak to your organs. Once you learn just to do it to one, which takes a couple of minutes, and I teach this to my clients, then you go through them all, and it doesn't take long. And, in 3 weeks, I have people who are completely, it's almost like they're reborn again. They completely are mastering the frequencies within themselves, and they're channeling higher frequencies. And so it really, for me, the knowledge of how to unite the spirit, God energy, so it's one with the physical body, which is also divine tech, that knowledge has been lost. And so this is creating a problem because there's people who discover different ways to master their energy fields, but they haven't truly tapped in that, hey, you can go into your system just like a computer where you press delete, you can delete all of the old energy system out and then rebuild a new energy system. And this is what Christ meant in the Bible, that thou shalt be born again. It doesn't mean that you physically die. It means that you need to go in and clear all that old energy field and create a new one, and you can do so. And it's quite easy to do once you step into that.
I mean, I guess I could see that, right? The idea of connecting, going through a process, learning the process, and then once you're, tuned in tapped in, turned on, right? You're
No.
right. Yeah, you're good to go.
Don't need a book or anything.
Yeah. Well, the other part too, right? And I think you mentioned this, and I wanted to tap on it. You talked about like books and religions as being not like imminently necessary, right, for to be able to do this. However, I mean, would you also say that if I read a book and I understand something, to me that indicates my level of where I am versus the book per se, right? Is that fair to say? Like, so if I pick up a religious book and I'm like, oh my God, I have an epiphany, it's not necessarily the book, it's just my understanding.
Exactly. And
right?
so, yes, exactly. And, the thing is like, I love books, by the way. I have a lot of antique books. I have books from England. I have quite a library. So I love books. But at the same time, I know being in God consciousness, I instantaneously know things. And then like the Bible, okay? So the Bible, first of all, it's almost like being worshipped. People are so obsessed with the Bible. It's insane. It's deterring them from the God.
It's misunderstood, right? Like, I mean, it's been like passed down from generation to generation. You got this one, group of people. It's like, hey, let's take all the literal meaning out of this whole thing, which could, translation has never been altered over, thousands of years. So, I'm sure everything in there is like perfect, right? And then they.
Well, if you research the Bible, it's first of all, it's not the word of God, because it's a lot of different prophecies, history, and mishmash of things they found put together then create the Bible, which is said to be the word of God, which isn't true at all. The true word of God is within us. When we tap into that higher state of being, we just instantaneously know, because we're in God consciousness, and we don't need to read a book because God is within us and we're accessing that. So for me, when it comes to religion, and this might be controversial to say, but I'm known to say controversial stuff, and I honestly don't care, because I know people need the truth. It's going to help them out of this web that they're living in of dense energies. And in the Bible, there was also a lot of political stuff put in there to suppress people, just like it says, pay your taxes and this and this and this. And then, of course, it's in a way, the Bible too is, for me, it's quite a dense energy, because there's the murder of millions of people in there. There's the murder of innocent animals and sacrifice. And, any logical person, any person who's somewhat functioning is going to look at that and say, why would God instruct to kill children and animals and thousands of people? If you're God, you would ever do that. That's not God. In fact, that's the opposite of it. So for me, religion has caused a lot of havoc. It's also made people think that they're sinners, and it's put people in this sort of like energetic web system, which I feel is part of the false light matrix system, where it doesn't tell them how to actually heal. It just makes them feel bad because they're sinners and they have guilt and everything else. And it's quite a huge problem on the planet right now. And to ascend into God consciousness, you got to get rid of all of that. And sadly, it's ingrained in our very DNA, some of us, because our grandparents and so on, everybody's been in religion. And whatever you believe, those codes are going to go into your children and your grandchildren. So a lot of people, they're actually being born with these codes that need to be deleted out of the system, so they can have a free mind, so their souls can be free, so their energy can be free, so that they can actually function from a higher consciousness. So it's really important just to get rid of all of that. Hey, the Bible was also King James, who had the whole Bible done. He did a book on demonology. Nobody knows this.
Nobody's got that one.
Yes, nobody's got that one. He wrote a book on demonology and how to summon demons, but he created a word of God. And I do a lot of research. I've done a lot of research on the archons, because I've encountered, spirits that feed off of people's energy field. And I really feel the Bible is tied into the archons and into lower spirits. Once we're clear of energy, of guilt, of negative energy and guilt and all that stuff, no negative spirit can access us. So they want us to have guilt, and they want us to feel like sinners, because when we do, things can access and feed off our energy field. So I think it's kind of, religion was created almost for me the opposite of the divine. It's connected into the lower energies.
No, 100%. I can see that, right? And especially if you're taking the Bible at kind of face value. I guess I'm referring to a lot of some of the other people that have given me different perspective on it. Like Neville Goddard is a guy that, like, I think gives you like a fun perspective on the Bible that doesn't. It's not it's based off of like astrology and all these other things versus some other stuff and versus what I was taught growing up. I remember very clearly, like listening to him, like driving up through some back roads, like talking about the Bible, like, and to me, the way that it was intended to be delivered, I was like, that's it. Why isn't anybody talking like this? This is what you're supposed to be hearing versus, if they're talking about like, for example, one of them was like talking about the sheep, not slaughtering a sheep per se, but like, about like it's the rough texture of the sheep versus something else, like all the symbolism, which again, I'm sure that's, up your alley, right? So not to dive too deep into that, but I mean, I think that to me, again, the bigger part of it all is like, when you're reading the books and I don't feel like I feel like there's definitely misinterpretation of the Bible. And I also feel like, to your point, you don't need to go, when you go read all those books, understand that the things that are lighting you up are coming from your own understanding from within, right? Not from that book per se.
Yes.
Right.
It's when, and there's codes and symbolism and everything. So like if I read something, and I've read the Bible like countless times, and when I read something, I see it differently. I'll notice a person who reads it that, they haven't accessed God consciousness. They'll take it literally and see it differently than me, who actually sees codes in it. And there's a lot of codes and symbolism in religion, but those are stolen. Those are stolen from the ancient prophets, those write-ins, and then, given to us in different religious books. But is there some truth in the Bible? Of course there's some truth in the Bible. And otherwise that would keep people attracted to it. So they always put truth and lies together. It's just,
sure.
Yeah.
Nah, for sure. It was funny though too. I made a little note here when you're talking about the Matrix. Remember where the cat, like in the one scene that kind of glitched for a second, like you said, in the Matrix, it was like almost a glitch when you said it. It was just kind of funny because you glitched in the Matrix.
It's true. So there's two Matrix. There's two light systems flowing through this planet. One is the original light system, the light system of ancient light, which is flowing through the forest, it's flowing through everything. And then we have what I call the false light system. The false light system is the pollution on this planet, because pollution is heavy, dense energies. We're being bombarded with pollution, negative belief systems. That's another one. And we're actually born into a system where we go through schooling. That's a system that closes us off from our creativity, from the divine. We go through jobs. It's another system that makes us, basically almost like it slaves us for money, and it keeps us from our true calling, our soul path. So we have all these different systems that are part of this false light matrix system that we are born into and that we grow into, and that tell us what to think. It tells us what to eat. It tells us how to dress. It tells us what to do on every single level, while it's hitting us with pollution, so that our bodies, because each cell, by the way, and this is some ancient knowledge here, because the ancient Egyptians, they used to be sun worshipers, and they would bring in the light of the sun, and that would charge their aura and all the organs, and of course their chakra system. The cell is a solar panel. The light would come through it and charge our soul energy. However, the pollution comes into the cell, and specifically heavy metals. We're being bombarded with heavy metals everywhere. Putting in different things like vaccination and stuff, as controversial as that sounds. So the heavy metals get into the cell and reflect out like a mirror, so the light cannot charge our auric field and our energy system. So we are basically lower consciousness because we are not charging. This is why we have so many energy vampires. People are depleted in energy often. They are terrible to themselves and others. They're murderers. They're abusers. Anyone who does not have a higher energy charge, they are basically functioning from lower consciousness, and they're vampires, they're energy vampires. So we have this whole, and they're all connected to the false light matrix system, which blocks the true light out. It's blocking, like I said, on a cellular level, on an energetic level, on a thought level, in the belief systems, on all these different levels. And sadly, much of this planet, many millions of people are tapped into that false light matrix system and functioning from there. You have to completely disconnect from that, and then you have to reconnect to the true light, that the light of the divine that flows through everything. So you have to kind of peel back the layers. It's almost like an onion. You've got to peel that back so you can get to your core energy within yourself of the divine.
What's first step? Right? Like, how do you recognize you're in like the bad matrix?
I think it's really easy to tell. You're going to be depressed, you're going to be stressed, you're going to be worried all the time, you're going to be tired. There's no joy in life, because again, being down here in frequency, you have to be high frequency to have joy, bliss, love, all those beautiful things to feel good. So if you're down here, you're going to be sick and everything else, and that's then you're going to feel like you're suffocated in life. Those are a few of the things that will tell you that you're connected into the lower energies. And then of course you need to start with level number 1, and that's the physical body. You need to start to detox it and bring in light energies. So then you can bring in light energies without doing any what I call visualization meditation, which is another level of bringing yourself up through drinking herbs, bringing in a lot of food that has light energy in it. That's fruits, vegetables that have charged with the sun's energy, the moon's energy. So you're starting to bring that energy into your body, because our diets, I noticed, especially here in the United States, our diets are depleted in energy, literally minerals, nutrients. We're eating a dead diet. So we're literally like the walking dead. So it's so important to bring those things in, to bring in vitamins and nutrients into your system, to bring in water that's charged with energy. So I put my water, by the way, in mason jars and put it under the sun and moon, put crystals in it. So I'm charging it. That's one of the ways I like to do it. So then you're going to start with the physical tech. Just start to simply change its frequency through your diet, through detox, and then, start to do things like meditation, visualization meditation, start to do things, physical things to get your body also healthy, such as working out, yoga, things like that. Those are a couple of the first steps that people need to take to actually get themselves to higher frequencies.
Right. So those are a couple of the first steps you're saying to take out to break out of I'm just going to call it the dark matrix into the light matrix. Right. And it's kind of interesting as you're talking, right? The foods with light energy, I forget, I was watching some, plant-based diet bit, but, basically if you're eating, freshly grown in the sun, vegetables and fruits, you're eating the sun. That's sunlight, right? It's literally captured sunlight. So at least if you're getting it into you, I could just see myself blowing out like the metals or whatever from the inside.
And that's another thing. See, with toxins, you can also go in your system and tell your system to transmute them. So you tell your cells, I want you to transmute the energy of toxins, transmute it to golden light, and then charge yourself. Tell yourself to charge itself with that. So we can actually go in our system and tell our system to transmute these energies of toxins into higher frequencies that will then charge us and bring us into higher consciousness.
What's like a timeline for something like that, right? To does that require like belief that you and your system and your body can do that for yourself? Is that instantaneous?
And, that's why they really, in society, try to make us feel less than inside, because once we believe we're God, that manifests into ourselves, and we are immensely powerful.
So real quick though, sir, if I'm God and you're God, like what's up? Because I think a lot of people though, if you were to say that and you're saying it right now, they're like, well, if you're God, why is the world like this? Why don't you fix it? And if I'm God, then like, why is my world like such a shit show? Right? Like, so how do you address that to people?
So it wouldn't be fair if only you're God or I'm God and we have all this power. That would be imbalance. So God wants us all to know we're all God and we must all work together to heal the world, because that's fairness and balance. And of course, God is an energy that flows through us. It flows through you. It flows through me. And we must all acknowledge that we're God. This is quite important for the planet right now. And that because when we acknowledge that, then there is no fair. There is nothing that can hinder us from healing our planet. But it would be unfair if just one of us were God. So yes, even though I have quite immense divine power, it's not up to me to heal the planet. It's up to me to say, I have found God within, and pass that light to others until everyone's found their light within and works together to heal their planet. And that's what the divine wants. It wants us to know that we're all pieces of this beautiful divine puzzle, and we're all needed. And we all need to step into our Christ consciousness, not just one of us. Because, if one of us came and healed the entire planet, it wouldn't fix the solutions. Go back, they would expect a savior over and over again. They haven't stepped into their Christ selves. But once you step into your Christ self, you understand you come from a place of compassion and goodness. So you understand not to continuously do harm to yourself and others. So this is kind of the grand plan, divine plan for humanity. That's why in religion, when it says, just there's one savior, it's false. Christ said, all are Christ. Christ was trying to show people, I have powers and you can achieve this too. And Christ said, I'm God. And that was very controversial back then. But Christ had realized that he had this God force within himself, and he became one with it and realized he was God. And that's what he was trying to teach humanity.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I think it makes to the same degree almost that if you and I were to run out and say that I'm God, right? The people right now are like, no, you're not, like, that's messed up. You can't talk like that. Right. But all you're really saying is like, I am filled with source energy to your, we started this whole thing off with, without that divine energy within your body, that life force within your body, you don't work. Like, I mean, and nobody figures out like how, like when you die, like nobody's like, hey, did anybody catch the battery that fell out? Where did that life source go? Where did that God force go? Right. Mm-hmm. So, you also talked about like, Jesus said, I can do these things and you can do the same and so much more. Right. And that's, I think, I love that line. I'm like, well, dude, what's up? You know what I mean? And so
same thing. I'm like, what's up? Why are you guys not healing people? Why is the earth this way? Because they haven't found the truth within themselves. They haven't actually become one with that energy to understand their God. So that's why nobody is really healing themselves and others and stuff. And this is where religion actually keeps people from accessing that. And, but yeah, I say that all the time, but hey, of course I have, being in Christ consciousness, I manifest myself a beautiful, happy life.
No, it's worked out for you.
Everywhere, yes. So I am the master of my life through that.
No, and it works, right? But I think what you're saying though too, and I wrote it down, like it's like a string of Christmas lights, right? Like if one goes out, like then the whole thing's not working, right? So we're all kind of like in that string of Christmas lights. If we got a few that are busted, the whole string's not going to work. So we all gotta bring our lights, and you're passing the light on to the next person. You have just as much in you as the next person does. It's just their ability and willingness to recognize it, harness it, and nurture it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And like I said, there's some truth in the Bible, but it says that once man realizes that he's got Christ within him, that he has more power almost than the angels, and that's immense power. But God being fair to all, even with beings like me who have come to this earth to channel this information, I don't ever want to be on a pedestal. I don't ever want to be above anyone. I just wish to show them what I have found within myself.
And I think that's a tough one for people, Sarah, because like, it's like, again, you're not saying you're above or beyond anyone. You've just made a different choice to recognize your connection to source, right? And that's it, right? It's not like you're better than somebody else. It's not like you're higher, not like you're lower, not like you're more powerful than anybody else either. It's just like, this is, like the whole Jesus thing, you can do this and so much more.
Exactly. So I've devoted my life to showing people what I've achieved and that they can achieve just as much within themselves. And this is important because God is so fair. God would not put one above another. So there's just those of us who have realized that we're God and we're our own Christ. And there's those who haven't. Not that they're below us, just they haven't realized that yet. And at some point in the future, they will realize that.
Right. Or, depending on like, I guess where your stance is on like the reincarnation bit, right? Or just like in next lifetimes until like there's a full recognition of, soul experience, right? I'm here to have an experience. And, if I don't figure it out this time, like maybe, next time, right? So what are some of your biggest objections to somebody, when you tell them that they are God, that they are source, what do they say to you?
It almost releases them. It makes them so happy because a lot of people look up to me. And so when I tell them that, they're like incredibly happy, and it's eye-opening to them because they're like, wow, you've achieved so much and you do all these things. You travel dimensions, you go out of your body, you speak to ETs, but you're looking at me and you're telling me I'm God. And that really, in a beautiful way, shakes them and they start to think about it and helps them wake up. And they're very accepting of that. And they, I help them realize their power within them. And that, even though a lot of people I come across, sometimes I'll just be having my cup of hot chocolate or tea, and I'll look at the person who's talking to me, I'll say, you're God. And they just smile and they like tell me, tell me about this. And I tell it to them and they understand it. And it really helps them to awaken more.
That's cool, right? I definitely haven't gotten to the point where I run around and tell people that they're God, right? But, definitely to the point, though, where I know that I look at everybody and everything is divine, right? That's just kind of point that I'm at.
God speaks to us all the time when I'm walking on the street and I see a smiling child or I hear a bird chirping or I feel the wind blow through my hair. I'm aware God is within me and all around me, and God's always speaking to me. It's such a beautiful thing. And for me, what's heartbreaking is that knowing that humanity they're not opening the door to that. And that's the solution. And once they did, they'd never be lonely. Even if they were in the middle of the desert, they would know that they're God and they're okay and everything's going to be okay in the end. And there would be no fear. There would be nothing, that could hinder them ever, really truly hurt them in any experience. So it for me, it's really intense because I get to experience this. But I realize how hard it is for people who don't have that support from the divine. It's really hard, their 3D lives.
Do you feel like we're turning a corner at all? Do you feel like the realization and recognition of divine within Christ consciousness is accelerating?
I do. I believe that the pressures of COVID, the pressures from our politicians, the pressures from our economy that has just been destroyed via these different things. I feel like the more pressure that humanity has on it, that they're going to look deeper within. They're going to start to look deeper within and find that power, and that's going to help them transcend all of these things. And that pressure's there to help them access the Christ consciousness, to push them within more. to step into their God consciousness.
Like a germination of sorts.
Yes.
I got it. Let's do ETs before we leave, just for fun. Give me the lowdown on the ETs and you.
Ooh, so I had one of my team who saw me shapeshift into an ET, by the way. So I get this question a lot. People are like, what are you? Are you supernatural? Are you a goddess? Are you a witch? Are you this? I've had thousands of different labels and names thrown at me. So, we have these bodies, right? So we had many other bodies. A lot of people don't remember this, but this isn't their only body that they've had. They've lived on other planets. They've taken many different forms. But above that, they were in the spirit world. So they're God consciousness. So I'm aware I'm God consciousness. I've taken bodies of ETs. I've taken bodies in Egypt and Atlantis. And this is my, most recent body.
It's your daily driver.
Right. So just like we take off clothes and put them on, that's how I see it. So yeah, I have had some incarnations as ETs, different ETs. So that's something that I'm highly aware of. I have merged in the energy from whenever I was an ET. So I have that energy within my field. I've merged in energy from when I was in Atlantis, from when I was in Egypt. And it has a lot of information. It's kind of amazing because I kind of left all this information and then pulled it back into this lifetime so that I could help out with channeling knowledge to humanity. That was all this information I collected during the time I went into physical bodies. So with ETs, I mean, they're just a different body that they put on for a while to have experiences in. I speak to them. Sometimes, like I said, I definitely go into that energy of when I was at ET and shapeshift. I'm quite aware of that. People around me too. But for me, ETs are they're my kin. I'm always up with the councils. They're so telepathic and they can feel things from other planets. They can be in another solar system and feel things that happen on our planet. They're quite in tune, and they're kind of like the seers of the divine. It's because they're the powers that they have, the technology they have comes from the divine. They're so close to the divine, and it has immense power. So that gives them all the technology, all the abilities they have. In fact, believe it or not, the ET races that have the most light energy through them are the most advanced races. Not the ones who steal energy.
I've got 2 questions left. Got a favorite ET?
I can't say that. I feel heartbroken saying that because they all love me so much and I love them so much. So
it's just today. It could change tomorrow.
I still have to stick with all of them. They do such divine work for the planet, for humanity, and I'm so grateful to have their presence in my life.
100%. No wrong. That's no wrong answers. Are we that much more removed then from ETs in terms of being close to the divine? I mean, is it harder for us to get that close, or have we made it harder for ourselves to get that close?
Humanity's made it hard for themselves. God's never left humanity. These beautiful beings, interdimensional beings, ETs never left humanity. They've never turned their backs on humanity. It's humanity who's turned its backs on itself and on God, on its own children, on its own planet, because they're not stepping into God consciousness and they're simply living a 3D life. So it's humanity who has made the obstacles for themselves.
So self-inflicted kind of walls and cutting ourselves off from source, intentional or unintentional. I think it could be argued in either way, right? What's the Maya Angelou line where you do your best until you know better, right? And
yes.
And I think that we've done our best with what we thought was the right thing for quite a long time, only kind of to get to this point and be like, well, really? This is the best we can do. I think we missed a turn back there, right? Somewhere. So we should have turned left, or we should have made a right. Well, so listen, there's so much we barely scratched the surface of you, but I just want to say thanks for popping on today. What is what is like one thing you wish somebody had always asked you but never had?
And that's a hard one, but let me think for a second there. I think that, I wish that people would have understood that I'm only trying to bring them goodness, and asked me about that more deeply and intensely when I was younger, when I had just gotten this field and when everything was chaotic for me. I wish they would have asked more questions and came to me about the things that I experienced and about me being different. That would have been amazing. Now they do, so I've manifested that, but it's something that I would have wanted when I first got into this field.
How would that have helped you?
I think instead of people misunderstanding me, because a lot of them did, it would have helped them understand me a lot more.
Just by kind of asking questions versus, what was happening?
Versus theories or fear, or I feel like people are very fearful of things that are different. And instead of approaching in fear or having their theories or beliefs, they should approach with kindness and by asking questions and getting to know those who are different. Because, I've had my share of where I was misunderstood, despite the fact that I was only trying to bring healing and goodness to the world. So I hope that that's something that in this community people can do more. They can just simply be honest with you, ask a question without any ulterior motive behind it or belief system or theory about you. As somebody who has I have a huge following, you don't really know me, but you can ask me questions and I'll honestly answer. So that's what I feel. There was a lot of questions back then, maybe not now, that I wish people would have asked me so they could have understood me better.
What's one question that I could ask you that would help me understand you better?
Take a guess. Any you want. Go ahead. Come on. You can ask me anything.
Yeah, this is one I feel like I should have asked kind of earlier in the show, but was this something that you experienced? I believe if I caught correctly, there was some abuse while you were growing up too, right? So was this something that was trying to manifest then, and was that something that was holding you back from sharing more of your gifts?
No. So I chose to come into I chose to come into a body and experience abuse so I could understand it. How can I go to a planet and help out that planet if I didn't know what they were experiencing? So for me, that just gave me a lot of knowledge. It could destroy me or truly hurt me. I think what was more heartbreaking was the public and the people in the Awakened community who were not approaching me in the right manner. And that made it hard for me on my journey at a certain point, of which I've overcome. And I know how to deal with the public better now, because back then I was so, you might say, non-human. I was so different and everything was quite intense for me. And people saw me and they were like, oh, she's definitely different. And it kind of, I feel like maybe made some of them afraid, or they couldn't understand things and they didn't approach with questions and kindness. Rather, they approached with being quite harsh. That's what really I had a hard time in my journey. And at one point, I just took a time out and Christ and Jesus appeared to me. Christ and Buddha appeared to me. And Christ and Buddha said to me, now you know how we felt when we were just trying to help out humanity. And Christ was like, they killed me because they didn't know how to approach me. They didn't know how to understand me. And even though I just wanted to help them, they did this to me. And now you understand this. And now you understand that you're on a planet where even though they think they're very advanced, they're quite primitive in knowing about the divine and about energy and a lot of other things. And because you're bringing this information, that's really triggering them. And it's bringing up a lot of things in them, and it's bringing up their fear of anything that's different. So I got to feel the emotions of Buddha and Christ and how heartbreaking it was for them just to want to help the world and have experienced that. And they did provide support for me. They were like, this is your journey now. We experienced this. and we knew it was going to happen, but we're here for you. It was beautiful.
I think that's huge, right? I think first of all, your capability, I guess, and or willingness to view your abuse in that light, and I think that I caught briefly, maybe that's part of how you were able to heal yourself, was by being able to see yourself in that way, and kind of how can you take what seems like this really awful thing from your past and harness that as your power, right? Or at least bring it into yourself and accept that plays something good for you in who you are today, right? So I think I think that's a really cool way to take a look at it, and also to your point again, of coming from the space and trying to have a conversation with somebody that doesn't understand it, right? The questions can be awkward, right? So the questions would be like, well, what, so the questions can be awkward. So I can understand too, the desire to have somebody ask you questions that in kindness, right? Versus, kind of, I don't know about I wouldn't say mean spirited, but again, if somebody doesn't understand, then we come from a world kind of where you poke fun at it until you understand it, right? Or something like that. But again, I just want to say thanks for sharing all of who you are in again this kind of short time frame today here on Spiritual Dope. And where can people go find you?
Thank you. I really enjoyed this. And so they can find me at www.sararadams.com, and that's with an H, of course. And I am doing a lot of great projects. I just opened a retreat center here in Sedona, Arizona. I opened a store. I coach people, on how to heal, how to access the dimensions, how to speak to ETs. And I'm doing the Laughlin conference here this summer. So they can find out more about that there.
Tell us a little bit about the conference.
It's an ET conference, and it's going to have a lot of my Gaia friends there that do work on Gaia. So we're going to have a great time. I'm excited about this. And they wanted, they contacted me. They said, we know that you are in contact with ETs. We know that ETs have a lot of messages for the planet of how to heal the planet. Can you just come and channel that for us and speak about that? And I'm more than happy to go do that.
Why would you say no? Awesome. Very, very, very cool. Again, thanks for being on. This was a lot of fun. So.
Thank you.